Hello, brilliant creators. Karen Shier here. I guide midlife women in releasing what no longer lights them up so they can joyfully thrive in the second half of their life. So today I want to expand on my question from my social media post earlier this week. And the question was, what if you were to get up each day and believe that you're unstoppable? How would that feel? And would that change the way you tackled your day? Would it add a skip to your step? And would you feel happier and more empowered? Imagine getting up in the morning and shouting, "I am unstoppable." Would you do it? Would you have the courage? I think you do. I think you do, my friend, underneath. So perhaps when you hear a new statement like, "I am unstoppable," you feel resistance to it, or it doesn't feel true, or you don't want to say it out loud, or it just doesn't feel right. And that's okay. It's simply your inner critic, your ego mind, resisting that new thought that you're having and the new affirmation that you're saying or trying to bring into your awareness. It's just simply resisting this new information. It doesn't want you to feel unstoppable. It wants you to stay stuck in your comfort zone because that's where it thinks you'll be safe, and that's what's familiar to it. It's just kind of how you're wired, right? So how do we quiet down our inner critic? And we can change this. We can do this. How do we let our inner wisdom, our intuition, and that one that knows our true self best shine through instead? Well, there's a few steps, and I'm going to walk you through them. So the first step is awareness. We need to understand that our mind is a very powerful thing. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. So the beliefs that we have created certain neural pathways where our old thoughts just flowed over and over until they became beliefs and imprints. And these are things that, we learned, thoughts we had, things that we were told as a child, from our parents, from our grandparents, from our teachers, and they learned it from their parents and their grandparents and their teachers and other people. And because these pathways have been established, our mind resonates with them and it tries to recreate what's comfortable for us. So our inner critic, that little voice in our head, will keep shouting and promoting and whining and barking out these old beliefs at us in an attempt to not let that new and more empowering thoughts inside. And that's why hearing and saying these new thoughts and affirmations can be somewhat uncomfortable at first. It just might not feel quite right, and it's okay. So what can we do? Well, the second step is that we need to change that neural pathway and release the old energy associated with that old belief, that old belief that's probably not true for you in this moment. We need to override our old habits and beliefs with new ones that are more true for us now or that we want to create for our life. And one technique I like to use is simply a visualization technique. It's really easy to do. So I simply closing my eyes and visualizing the old self-defeating belief written out on a whiteboard or on a chalkboard in my mind, okay? And it's written out in my own handwriting. So let's say perhaps my old thought was, "I'm not good enough." I'm guessing that we've all felt that at a time or two. But what I do is I focus on that statement, "I'm not good enough," with my eyes closed. And like I said, I see it kind of written out in my handwriting as it's going across the chalkboard or a whiteboard in my mind. And it probably sounds kind of odd, but basically I focus on that statement and I have gratitude for how it helped keep me safe in the past, or it kept me from taking a risk, or I benefited from it in some way. Perhaps I used it as an excuse not to step up and out and try something new, and it kind of sort of kept me in my lane. So sometimes we use those thoughts in our heads to keep us from doing other things, whether we realize that that's what we're doing or not. Well, then I watch this as it slowly erases away or just dissolves into nothingness. So I see it on a chalkboard and I see it erase and I see it leaving me, right? And then I thank the thought and I feel gratitude for it. I acknowledge the work my inner critic or ego mind's been doing to keep me safe up until now. And this focused action helps to soothe and quiet my inner critic. I'm taking a moment and I'm acknowledging the importance of that former belief in my life and the perceived benefit I gained from believing it. And that brings me to the third step. It helps quiet my ego mind. And then what I do is, at that point, rewrite and rescript the old self-defeating thought. So we want to replace it with a more empowering thought. And we can create new pathways that eventually become familiar to our mind and override the old self-defeating thoughts that we had in the past. So instead of, I'm not good enough, I change the narrative to, I am unstoppable. Or whatever other mantra or affirmation or thought that you want to believe and that you want to bring into your consciousness. I say and I think and I focus on it over and over with feeling and emotion until the neural pathway becomes familiar to my mind and forms a new empowering belief. So, and I essentially let my inner wisdom take control and speak my truth louder to me than my inner critic. It's really that simple. But I'm not saying it's always that easy. So the fourth step, as you can probably imagine, becomes practice, practice, practice until it feels good and second nature, and until the old thought is no longer at the forefront of your mind. So I've learned in my studies and my research and all the stuff I'm doing that it takes at least 21 days or more for a new practice to take hold and new neural pathways to be formed. But it will happen if you're consistent. So if you consistently do this, every day for 21 days or more, or, and just make sure that you're focused and your thoughts are towards that new belief and you just keep it in the forefront of your mind. Just be consistent. Now, the old thought might come up for you on occasion. You might have a stressful thing and it brings up that old, I'm not good enough again, or whatever that is for you. But then you have the power and the awareness at that point to simply acknowledge and thank it and let it know that you don't believe it anymore. Pat that little thought on the head and tell it to go lay down like you would a barking puppy. And again, if it's a really ingrained thought, it may take a few times. It may take some other processes. That I just gave you one quick process that's kind of fun to use. So just to review the steps quickly, the first one is become aware. Become aware of what you're thinking. And does that thought feel good? Is that a thought that you want to think about and that resonates with you? And is it a thought that's true for you today? Maybe it's something you thought as a child, but maybe it's not true for you today. So become aware, step one. Step number two is release the old energy and the old neural pathway. Step three is rewrite and rescript and create a new neural pathway with a new empowering thought. And then finally, just practice. Just keep it in the forefront, affirmations, mantras, whatever it is. Just keep visiting those and saying those and thinking those and say them out loud and write them down. The more you do this, the more it will imprint that new neural pathway into you, and those new thoughts will become new habits. So I hope that you'll sit with this, because I feel like you are amazing. You are unstoppable. You can create anything that you set your mind to, and you can quiet that inner critic, and you can create an amazing life, the amazing life that you want to live. And I'd love to hear your comments in the chat below, and I'd really love to see you comment with a hashtag IAmUnstoppable. I really do believe that we're all connected and we're all in this together. So let's support each other and be unstoppable together. If this resonated, please take a second and comment below, hashtag IAmUnstoppable. So I just want to say thank you so much for popping in and listening to the video, and have a lovely rest of your day. Bye for now.